What is up, everybody? We are back with War Season 32. Today I will be taking in Human Torch, Nebula for the first in-season war, and Sorcerer Supreme for the first in-season war. I will be taking Path 2 in Section 1 and Path 3 in Section 2, and I have one mini-boss, and I'm on boss duty this war. I didn't mention, but Ghostquake and Tigra were the bans for this war. So Tigra was a bit of a surprise, but not too detrimental to our planning. One nice thing is that Human Torch is kind of going to be off the table maybe for some wars this season, which make Mystic matchups like Maw here and Professor X, so someone with energy attacks, like my next fight, pretty easy. So it's been a long time since I brought Human Torch to war. Kind of missed the aspect of whereas DOT just kind of ends a fight really quickly. But anyways, here Maw, we're focusing on strike counter. One thing to keep in mind with Maw is that if you do knock him down with a heavy when he is focusing, as he crosses the first power bar threshold for power struggle, he's going to reduce the power you gain. So luckily he wasn't focusing there with my first bar of power, but you're going to notice it with the second bar of power. It reduces passive power gain abilities by 60%, so we're only going to gain shy of half a bar of power. So in some aspect of this fight, you want to get either the heavy out of the way soon, or let the heavy be your last hit before pushing him over a bar of power. That way he's not focusing in the time that he gains a bar of power. Another thing that kind of helps is that if Maw has MD, you can pretty much block a lot of stuff in decks on purpose and force him into SB1 without ever throwing a hit. And that way you build temperature so that you don't have to worry about miss, and you just take him out that way. Anyways, goes down pretty easy, a little damage. It's going to be one item before going into Professor X here. Professor X, even easier than Maw on the brute force node here. We're really just being mindful that we're intentionally pairing his dash attack so that it actually lands the stun. But we're sticking to strike counter here as well. I am going to intentionally block SB1s so that we can maintain the temperature, but it's not a worry in this fight, to be honest. There's going to be one SB1 that does go unblockable, and I realize it right as it's being thrown, so we avoid it. But yeah, just as straightforward as Maw, non-contact attacks, so just being mindful of when our stun actually lands. At least with this fight, we can set ourselves up for success when landing the stun. So there's the unblockable special, and here comes the end of the fight. So easy peasy. All right, and then the Sasquatch fight here, this is where I'm going to be using the Human Torch pre-fight, which I placed earlier. We also have a White Magneto and an Odin Energy shock resistance buff here. So a lot of pre-fights for just this one fight. The main concern here when you have all those pre-fights, since you have all those pre-fights, you don't have to worry about other things, but the main concern here is just watching the global timer with the armor up. And making sure that he doesn't go unstoppable in the middle of an attack or in the middle of throwing our special attack. Now, I didn't review my strike counter fights before this fight. I could have, and it would have told me that just throwing the special attack resets the strike counter. And the reason that's such a big deal for this matchup and even for this node is that if you follow the strike counter rotation and then you throw the SB1 when you want to, the 10th hit, which would give him an armor up, which could trigger unstoppable, would be during the special attack. So it could go unstoppable mid SB1, and if you had to make contact with the SB1 to reset strike counter, that would be an issue. But because it resets once you throw SB1, you could get some distance and throw it into his block instead, and then not risk the combo meter hitting that 10 threshold and then an armor up showing up and going unstoppable. But as you saw, pretty straightforward fight. We got lucky. Our SB1 did trigger the armor up, but didn't trigger unstoppable, so we didn't have to worry about it. This next fight is a complete joke. I saw a video of it in the off season, and it was kind of funny. But really, because of chitinous thorns here and the fact that Nebula's a robot, so she gets hit with shock instead of bleed, she builds charges insanely quick. So it's 2 hits, and she's already at 20. So all I had to do was parry, 2 hit, parry, 2 hit. And I'm only doing 2 hits because there's a chance he could gain an armor up when critting, so I don't want to go too far, but this is it. And the fight was over in 20 seconds. So much for could be one of the most problematic unstoppable armor champs on the map. But Nebula just made it a complete joke. Speaking of jokes, Nebula's always been pretty good for Nimrod here. And in other seasons, it would have been PS1, build your shock charges so you shut down all of his ability accuracy. So that's what I'm doing right here. So he's going to do nothing. The node's going to do nothing now that I'm at 5 charges. And normally, I would have probably done a PS1 and then parried right when I was ready to do SP2 and throw SP2. The reason I don't do that this fight is because of unstoppable armor. I would really hate that in the middle of landing, in the middle of SP2, so right after landing the parry, an armor up to pop up from either the global or his abilities, and then I'd have to throw an SP2 into an unstoppable opponent. So what I chose to do is to never parry, block bait heavies, intercept, push him to SP2, make him throw SP2 because he does nothing with SP2, and then hit him with SP3 and then let those shocks and that damage basically just melt him. And then if he's still alive when I reach SP2 and I've got some shocks on him, go ahead and throw SP2. But still not parrying here because all it does is just shuts Nimrod down. Any robot here with Nebula, if I just hold on to charges, the node and that champion does nothing to me. So I don't have to worry about the global. I don't have to worry about anything. And that's what you're seeing here. So we're approaching SP2. He's pretty much done. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, should I throw it? And I was like, nah, let's just combo and knock him out. And down he goes. So Nebula's debut, 2 easy fights for her. All right, and then my only mini boss was to take Longshot with Human Torch on Safeguard, and of course Human Torch makes this fight a big joke. Some word of caution for Human Torch versus Longshot. The SP1, don't eat it, especially if he's in Pure of Heart, because that bleed is going to kill you. So ideally, if you don't feel comfortable dodging it or blocking it or baiting it, or you don't even want to deal with it, push him to SP2. And that way you're at least immune to incinerate. But to help avoid that issue, it's really just medium, light, medium after a parry. So never attack him even into block unless you've parry stunned him. I attack him a few times because I'm not worried about blocking SP1 the whole fight. Plus I'm paying attention to whether or not he ends up with Pure of Heart. So he doesn't have it right now, and he's being stubborn right here, which is annoying, and he finally threw it. So I blocked the whole thing to build temp, build smolders so that we do more damage with these incinerate debuffs. So I'm not interested in dexing any of it. Plus, dexing it would give me a dexterity buff and would feed him through Mystic Dispersion. So I'm just taking this slow, pushing him to SP1, parry medium, light medium, placing as many incinerates as I can there. I thought he stunned. So luckily I stunned him. So luckily he just threw a heavy, so I hit him. But yeah, now he's Pure of Heart, so I'm kind of waiting out the timer and hoping he just throws it into my block easily, and it about goes out. Luckily I didn't move there, just blocked the whole thing. So not a hard fight at all. It's one of the interesting benefits of unstoppable armor being the global is that maybe we won't see as many Human Torch bans, but literally there are so many OP attackers that it makes it really hard to isolate to 3 bans to feel confident that they are the best ones. But anyways, it's good to see Human Torch back in war. All right, and then Sorcerer Supreme's debut. First war of the season, we end up with a Super Skrull Boss. Now, Super Skrull with the global can be a giant pain in the butt because he gains more armor than the global. And each of those armor up buffs can trigger Unstoppable. So I like the start of my fight here, and then seeing someone else play Sorcerer Supreme, Chaos specifically at Savage Squad. And I could have watched more, but that was just the most recent one I saw. Made me realize that there is a better way to play it after my start. So the game plan here was PS1, start an Ingenuity. That way we can throw SB1 and then get that slow debuff placed so we don't have to worry about Unstoppable. And while we have slow up, this just makes it a regular boss fight versus a Super Skrull. Now we have the Nullification Aura that's going to get us to SB3 really quick. And as soon as I get to SB3, I'm not going to throw it. I am waiting for her Blessing in Inequity to come back up. That way we can store a permanent slow rune, and then every special attack we throw will constantly throw a slow on. So I like this start. This is the beginning of this fight is what I would probably do every time I face Super Skrull with Sorcerer Supreme. What I should have done after this, though, is cared less about only throwing SB1 or SB3 in the hopes of keeping slow up the entire fight. I should have thrown at least one or two or even more SB2s. And if I was going to throw an SB3, I should have focused on being in her, I forget the name of the blessing, but the orange blessing instead of whatever blessing. So that would have maximized my attack throughout this. And that would have made the fight a lot faster between the armor breaks and the constant special attacks. It would have definitely made this fight a lot faster. So I did not use Mystic Power Back boosts. I assumed MD was going to give me way more power than I was going to know what to do with, and it technically does with how many SP1s I throw. But if next time the game plan is to throw more SP2s and SP3s in her orange blessing, then definitely Mystic Power Back boosts. But at least with this game plan, I knew it was safe. Not really any issues. We have a long time to talk about what we're going to see later. So at least with my original game plan, I knew that this would be a pretty easy fight or pretty straightforward. All I had to do was pay attention to the falter timer. Now, what you're noticing now, nope, right here. There are two. So in the middle of this fight, I have to kind of not really guess. I have to trial and error which falter timer I'm actually supposed to be paying attention to. So here, a falter timer ended and I threw this. So I thought, hey, falter's on me, go ahead and throw it. This will get it off. And then what I'm going to notice is with the next falter timer that comes, that I'm going to actually get a falter. So that other one was not the falter timer. So actually it might be here. And therefore falter is not out of the way. And you see there, I paused. I waited for that falter debuff to actually place on me before throwing this SB3 so that it triggers the falter miss. That way the debuff falls off of me. Now, that worked there. But what you're going to see pretty soon, I think it's with the next SB1. Oh no, it's with my parry here. Boom. So other thing, we're probably going to dex SB1s from now on if we want to retaliate. Or we're just not going to retaliate. Right there. Falter timer disappeared. So now I'm blind. But since I'm so close to SB3 and I know the damage is going to get him down, I'm only going to stick with SB3s and kind of back off on attacking him. But as you can see, since I wasn't throwing SB2s or using SB3 with the orange blessing, then that made this fight a lot longer than it needed to be. Almost twice as long as it probably should have been. So don't know where the timer is. I see falters on me. I'm not going to go ahead and hit and block. He's got 3%. I just waited till I was at SB3, and this will finish the fight. So not a bad showing for the debut of using Sorcerer Supreme in War. Very satisfied, very happy with that. I mean, if this is the worst I can do without, fully understanding all of her abilities, it's only going to make the next attempt even sweeter. So we actually did not do well compared to their BG2. We died 3 times to their 2. But luckily, Matrix sucked worse than we did. So we actually won this 9-15. It was 8-10 when I took that Super Skrull Boss. So if we're looking to actually place top 2 or top 3, 9 isn't going to do it. But this is a typical start for New Nation. Is it acceptable? No. We need to get that death count way, way down and start figuring out this map in our kind of feng shui before everyone else does. And then we're having wars where it's like 3-1 or 2-3 and we lose. So not a bad, or sorry, a great start for the season for me. So I'm actually happy with that. New Nation, we got to pick it up. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and you guys learned some things. I know I did. Go ahead and hit subscribe, like, follow, and share, and I will catch you guys at the next one.